Going to be a fast video showing why I'm going to carve up this 49 Epiphone. This is going to be on the heels of yesterday's 30-minute long technical video with drawings of schematics that very few people watched. If this interests you, see yesterday's video, link above. Normally, this cap here goes from the first pentode stage to the second stage, gain stage was a triode. And there's a 470K resistor to ground, and I have that resistor lifted off the grid and just have a 500K pot there for reasons that will become apparent. So right now, using this setup where the volume control is on the input between the guitar and the pentode stage, we have, let's turn the volume up just a little bit. Not a bad sound, but you can hear the hum and buzz of the amp in the background, which is just as loud as the quiet signal. And that's why I'm doing this with the phone mic rather than the lav or a real mic. You can hear the signal to noise ratio better. I'll turn it up a little bit. And all that's groovy. But that hum and buzz is gone. So what I'm going to do is, rather than use this volume pot between the guitar and the first stage, I'm going to make this a volume pot between the first and second gain stages, between the pentode and the triode. And what that allows me to do, I'll turn this all the way up so it's not attenuating at the input, is now we get no background noise, because the background noise is being lowered at the same ratio as the signal. So if we turn the volume down low, it won't make that noise when it's turned when it's really done. Now we get all the gain that we want at whatever level we want, but the background noise is much quieter because it's all in relation to this. Now if I turn this up, then all that background noise does come up, but up again in relation to the signal. So you only have the high background noise when you have the amp set to high gain. I'm gonna turn this all the way up. And there's your background noise, but you turn it down to quieter stuff. That's kind of nice right there. And the amp is comparatively silent. So that's such a huge improvement. And it's really not period incorrect. I looked up schematics of a 49 and 50 Gibson and Fender amp, and by that period, Gibson and Fender had already moved the gain controls to after the first gain stage, which is, you know, pretty much amp 101. Well, whoever designed this at Valco in 1949 had not taken the class called amp 101, and it sounded like it. This will also let me have a tone circuit added back to the amp, not the useless one that came with it stock, but something much more similar to what you'd find in a 5E3 Deluxe. Though it will be with different values because it doesn't need to be as bright as a 5E3 Deluxe, because the pentode before the volume circuit has a high-end emphasis that the 12AX7 you find in a 5E3 Deluxe does not have. So even at the low volume stuff, it doesn't really need a ton of brightening. So it'll be a little bit modest as far as that goes. But it'll be nice to have a little bit of control over the high end. And as it smooths off, the difference between having the passive tone control at this point in the circuit versus hanging off the input of the amplifier itself, like it was in the stock thing, is just like the tone circuit in your guitar. Having the tone control hanging off the input jack affects the resonant peak of the pickup, so you don't just get a roll off of high, but you do get that, but you also get a resonant peak, which sounds more pronounced at higher gain stuff. And that's different because it's directly affecting how the pickup behaves when it's the tone circuit is hung off the output of the guitar / input of the amp. And the owner, of course, will still be able to get that kind of thing by using the tone circuit in his guitars. But just to gently set the amount of high end or roll off high end in the amp, the more 5E3 style tone circuit will be much more useful. So I'm real pleased with how that's going to sound. And again, to be able to get these sounds with almost no background hiss, that'll be a huge improvement. And it's not going to be very intrusive. I think if I get a stereo jack, I can do it with just one added stereo 1/4-inch jack mounted right here where nothing else is, which will be where the connections for this volume and tone will go. All will be well. From the outside of the amp, it will look stock. It'll use existing volume and tone controls and allow the use of any of the 4 input jacks. This volume pot will no longer do anything. And I've got to replace the intensity pot because it is defective, and if that were to cut out, you could potentially lose bias reference or the ground reference for the bias on the output tubes, and that would be no bueno. You don't want to risk the entire amplifier because of a $5 pot. So this is where I'm stopping for a bit while I order that one pot. I've got the parts necessary to do everything else except maybe the stereo jack. So one pot, one stereo jack, no big deal. Pretty non-intrusive. It's totally justified based on the demonstrable improvement in sound and signal to noise ratio. And that, someone was commenting on yesterday's video, they could not believe that a 1949 amp could get this much tube distortion. Amps, the circuits are circuits. They're pentodes and they're triodes. You get a couple other weird variations from time to time. This 6S Q7's got some diodes built into it that aren't actually being used here. But mostly amps are amps, and I don't see any difference between this 1949 Zephyr and that Mesa dual rectifier Tremoverb that I'm bringing back into being something usable and good. It's all what conditions a pentode needs to operate, what are the conditions a triode needs to operate. and how loading works, and how load lines work, and how gain stages interact, and what brings out certain harmonics or suppresses others when it comes to overdrive. This is about as simple as an amp gets. And you don't need a lot more than that.